It was never meant for us. The message came from the edge of extinction, desperate, broken, and beautiful. A voice trembling through the stars, not in conquest, not in anger, but in the final moments of hope. To any who still listen, we are the Zephyrians. Our sons are dying, our city's gone. The Void Swarm is here, they devour everything. If you hear this, please. Earth was never supposed to be part of this story. We were new, unproven, a young species still learning to walk among the stars, but we heard her, and we answered. Not because we were ready, not because we were strong, but because when a cry for help reaches a death world, something ancient stirs. This is not a tale of heroes born. It's a tale of monsters made, and of one final signal that changed the galaxy forever. When hope calls across the stars, the crystal spires of New Zephyr burned against the starless void as Princess Lyra pressed her luminous hand against the emergency transmitter. Around her, the last remnants of the Zephyrian High Council flickered like dying stars, their energy forms barely maintaining cohesion as terror consumed their peaceful civilization. Through the translucent walls of their orbital sanctuary, she watched her homeworld die. The enemy had no name in the Zephyrian language because her people had never conceived of such pure destruction. They called themselves the Void Swarm, and they moved through space like a plague of mechanical locusts. Each ship was a writhing mass of dark metal and pulsing biomechanical components, designed for one purpose: consumption. They didn't conquer worlds, they devoured them, stripping away everything from the core metals to the last traces of organic life. "Princess, the quantum barriers are failing," whispered Elder Cosmos, his ancient form already fading at the edges. The Zephyrians were beings of pure energy, evolved beyond physical form millions of years ago. Their greatest strength had become their greatest weakness. They had no weapons, no concept of violence, no understanding of how to fight an enemy that existed only to destroy. Princess Lyra's own radiance dimmed with grief as she watched another sector of her world disappear into the swarm's hungry maws. The mechanical parasites worked with terrifying efficiency, their harvesting beams reducing entire cities to raw materials in minutes. Billions of her people, reduced to energy patterns that the swarm absorbed like food. "How long until the signal reaches its maximum range?" she asked, her voice carrying the melodic harmonies that made Zephyrian speech sound like living music. "The transmission will propagate across 17 galaxy arms," replied Minister Echo, his form stabilizing as he focused on the technical details. "Any spacefaring civilization within 40,000 light-years should receive it within local time cycles." The message itself was simple, broadcast in mathematical sequences that any intelligent species could decode. Princess Lyra had composed it herself, pouring her people's last hope into electromagnetic waves that would travel faster than light through quantum space. It contained the coordinates of their system, a basic description of the threat, and a plea that transcended language. "Help us. We are dying. We cannot fight. Someone please help us." As she transmitted their final cry across the cosmos, Princess Lyra knew the bitter truth. The galaxy was vast, and most civilizations followed the same path as the Zephyrians. They evolved beyond violence, beyond the need for weapons or armies. Peace was the natural state of intelligence, they believed. War was a primitive concept that mature species left behind. The Void Swarm proved them all wrong. On Earth, 37,000 light-years away, Dr. Sarah Walsh was finishing her third cup of coffee when the Deep Space Monitoring Array lit up like a Christmas tree. The facility, built into the far side of the moon to avoid Earth's electromagnetic interference, had been scanning the cosmos for 50 years without detecting a single artificial signal. "Dr. Walsh, you need to see this," called Technician Rodriguez from across the control room. "We're picking up what looks like an artificial transmission from the outer Perseus arm." Sarah nearly dropped her mug. After decades of searching for signs of extraterrestrial intelligence, she had almost given up hope. She hurried to Rodriguez's station, where complex wave patterns danced across multiple screens. "It's definitely artificial," Rodriguez continued, his excitement barely contained. Mathematical progressions, quantum entanglement markers, the whole package. And Doctor, it's repeating. Every 37 minutes, same signal, same intensity. Sarah studied the data, her trained mind parsing the alien mathematics. The message was elegant in its simplicity, but what it revealed made her blood run cold. Coordinates to a distant star system. Technical specifications for spacecraft beyond anything humanity had developed. And underneath it all, a desperate plea for help. "Get me Admiral Hayes," she said quietly. "Priority 1. We need to call an emergency session of the Defense Coalition." Within hours, the most powerful people on Earth sat around a circular table in Geneva, staring at the decoded alien message displayed on holographic screens. Admiral Jonathan Hayes, Supreme Commander of Earth's United Defense Coalition, read the translation aloud in a voice heavy with implications. "To any who can hear this signal, we are the Zephyrian Empire. Our civilization spans 12 worlds and has existed in peace for over 1,000,000 Earth years. We are under attack by entities we call the Void Swarm. They consume everything in their path. We have no weapons, no armies, no knowledge of warfare. Our pacifist nature, which we once considered our greatest strength, has become our doom. If there are any warriors left in this galaxy, please help us. We are running out of time." The room fell silent. President Chen of the Pacific Federation was the first to speak. "How do we know this isn't some kind of hoax or trap?" Dr. Walsh activated additional displays showing the signal's origin point. "The quantum signatures are consistent with technology far beyond our current capabilities. The energy requirements alone would exceed our entire global power output. This is genuine." "And you're certain about the translation?" asked Chancellor Okafor of the African Union. "The mathematical concepts are universal. Plus, they included what appears to be a basic linguistic key. These beings want to be understood." Director Petrov of the Northern Alliance leaned forward, his expression grim. "The signal is 37,000 light-years away. Even with our new experimental FTL drive, it would take weeks to reach them. By then they'll be dead," Admiral Hayes finished. "The question is, do we have the right to risk human lives for aliens we've never met?" "Do we have the right not to?" countered President Chen. "If the situation were reversed, wouldn't we want someone to help us?" The debate raged for hours, but in the end, humanity made the choice that would define their place in the galaxy. They would answer the call. They would help. The UES Defiance was humanity's most advanced starship, built from technologies reverse-engineered from crashed meteors and theoretical physics pushed to their absolute limits. At 3 kilometers long, it housed a crew of 800 and carried weapons that could crack continents. More importantly, it carried something the Zephyrians had never possessed: the accumulated military wisdom of a species that had spent its entire existence learning to fight. Captain Marcus Chen stood on the bridge as Earth shrank behind them, feeling the weight of command settle on his shoulders. His crew was the best humanity had to offer. Dr. Sarah Walsh would handle first contact protocols. Commander Jake Torres would analyze enemy tactics. Chief Engineer Lisa Park would keep them alive in the depths of space. And if combat was necessary, they had 3 full battalions of Earth's most elite soldiers. "FTL drive stable, Captain," reported Navigator Kim. "ETA to the Zephyrian system, 18 days, 4 hours. Marcus nodded, staring at the star-filled view screen. Somewhere out there, an entire civilization was dying while calling for help that might never come. Earth had answered, but would they arrive in time? And if they did, could one human ship make a difference against an enemy that had defeated a 1,000,000-year-old empire? "Set course for the outer Perseus arm," he commanded. "Maximum speed." As the Defiance leaped into hyperspace, its wake rippling through dimensions that humans barely understood, Marcus thought about the message that had started it all: Princess Lyra's desperate plea, transmitted across the void in her people's final hour. She would never know that her signal had reached a small blue world where a young species was still learning to reach for the stars. But she would learn something else. She would discover that in the vast darkness between stars, sometimes monsters were needed to fight monsters. And humanity, shaped by millions of years of warfare on a planet that tried to kill them daily, had become very good at being the right kind of monster. The rescue was coming. Earth's children were on their way, and they were bringing everything they had learned about war. Back in the Zephyrian system, Princess Lyra felt her energy form stabilizing as hope flickered within her consciousness. She couldn't explain it, but something had changed in the quantum field around their transmitter. The signal was still broadcasting, but now it felt different. Less like a cry into the void and more like a prayer that had been heard. "Princess," Elder Cosmos whispered, his form brightening slightly. "Do you feel that? Something is coming." Princess Lyra pressed her consciousness against the electromagnetic spectrum, searching for any sign of response to their distress call. The void swarm continued their methodical destruction, but for the first time in days she allowed herself to believe that perhaps, somewhere in the vastness of space, someone had heard their plea. "Yes," she replied, her inner light growing stronger. "Someone is coming." She was right. 18 days away and closing fast, humanity's finest were racing through hyperspace, carrying with them 40,000 years of accumulated violence, tactical innovation, and stubborn refusal to let evil win without a fight. The galaxy was about to learn why Earth was classified as a deathworld, and why that might be exactly what the universe needed. When strangers become allies, the UES Defiance dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Zephyrian system, and Captain Marcus Chen immediately understood why an entire civilization was dying. Through the bridge's main view screen, he watched a mechanical nightmare unfold across 12 worlds. The void swarm moved like a plague of metallic insects, their ships ranging from fighter-sized parasites to city-sized harvesters. Each vessel, pulsed with biomechanical components that seemed to blend organic hunger with mechanical efficiency. They weren't just attacking the Zephyrian worlds. They were feeding on them, stripping away matter and energy with the methodical precision of a cosmic locust swarm. "Jesus Christ," whispered Commander Jake Torres, the ship's tactical officer. "There must be 10,000 enemy contacts, maybe more." Dr. Sarah Walsh leaned over the sensor displays, her xenobiology training helping her interpret the alien readings. "Captain, I'm detecting massive energy signatures that don't match the swarm vessels. I think those are the survivors." On the screen, points of brilliant light moved between the planets like scattered stars. Each point represented a Zephyrian ship, but they weren't fighting back. They were simply running, fleeing from sector to sector as the swarm systematically consumed everything in their path. "Why aren't they fighting?" asked Chief Engineer Lisa Park. "Maybe they can't," Marcus replied grimly. He had read Dr. Walsh's analysis of the alien message during their journey. The Zephyrians claimed to be pacifists with no knowledge of warfare. At the time, it had seemed impossible. Now, watching their desperate flight, he was beginning to understand. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission," reported Communications Officer Chen. "It's coming from the largest energy signature near the fourth planet." "Put it through." The view screen shimmered, and suddenly they were looking at something that challenged every assumption about alien life. Princess Lyra appeared as a being of pure light, her form shifting between different shades of gold and silver like living aurora. When she spoke, her voice carried harmonies that made human speech sound primitive by comparison. "Unknown vessel, I am Princess Lyra of the Zephyrian Empire. Are you here to help us?" Dr. Walsh stepped forward, activating the universal translator they had prepared. "Princess Lyra, I am Dr. Sarah Walsh of the Earth vessel Defiance. We received your distress signal. We've come to help." The alien princess's light flickered with what might have been surprise. "Earth, I do not know this world. Are you warriors?" Marcus joined the conversation. "I am Captain Marcus Chen. Yes, Princess, we are warriors. We came as soon as we received your message." "Warriors?" Princess Lyra repeated the word like it was a foreign concept. "We have no such word in our language. We do not understand conflict or violence. Our people have lived in harmony for 1,000,000 of your years." Commander Torres studied the tactical display, while listening to the conversation. The swarm was methodically working through the system, their harvesting operations leaving dead worlds in their wake. Captain, at their current rate of consumption, the remaining Zephyrian forces have maybe 48 hours before complete extinction. Princess, Marcus said urgently, we need to coordinate our efforts. Can you bring your surviving ships to a safe meeting point? Safe? Princess Lyra's form dimmed. Captain Chen, there is nowhere safe in our system. The Void Swarm consumes everything. They turned our greatest cities into feeding stations. Our people are taken alive and... Her voice faltered. Unable to describe horrors, she had no words. For Dr. Walsh's face hardened as she processed the implications. They're not just killing the Zephyrians, they're farming them. Then we end this, Marcus said simply. All hands to battle stations. Commander Torres, I want a full tactical analysis of enemy patterns. Chief Park, prepare all weapon systems. Dr. Walsh, see if you can establish a secure communication link with the Princess. As the Defiance moved deeper into the system, its advanced sensors began mapping the swarm's operations. What they found was both horrifying and strategically useful. The enemy operated with the single-minded efficiency of a hive mind, but their tactics were purely based on overwhelming force, against non-resistant targets. Captain, they're not prepared for opposition, Torres reported after studying the data. Look at their formations. They spread out to maximize harvesting efficiency, but they leave their flanks completely exposed. Against an enemy that actually fights back, these positions would be suicide. They've never faced resistance before, Marcus realized. Every civilization they've encountered was probably like the Zephyrians. Peaceful, pacifist, unable to fight back. Princess Lyra's refugee fleet consisted of 200 ships that resembled crystalline sculptures more than spacecraft. Each vessel carried thousands of energy beings, but they had no weapons, no shields designed for combat, no understanding of military tactics. They were refugees in the most complete sense of the word. Princess, Dr. Walsh said as they established a secure channel. We need to work together. Can your ships follow our lead? Dr. Walsh, we do not understand what you mean by work together in the context of violence. Our people have never harmed another living being. We do not know how to fight. You don't need to fight, Marcus interjected. You need to survive. Can your ships move in formation with ours? Yes, we can follow your flight paths, but Captain Chen, you have one ship. The swarm has thousands. How can one vessel defeat so many? Marcus smiled grimly. Princess, you're about to learn something about humans. We've spent our entire evolutionary history learning to fight against impossible odds. It's what we do. The first engagement came when a swarm harvesting group detected the Defiance moving toward one of their feeding stations. 50 biomechanical ships peeled away from their consumption activities and moved to intercept the human vessel. They approached in a loose swarm formation, expecting their target to flee like every other encounter in their existence. Instead, the Defiance opened fire. Human weapons technology, developed through countless wars and arms races, unleashed hell on the unprepared swarm ships. Plasma cannons designed to penetrate planetary shields tore through biomechanical hulls. Missile salvos launched from tubes originally designed for submarine warfare tracked their targets with predatory efficiency. The Defiance's point defense grid, capable of stopping incoming nuclear warheads, swatted swarm fighters out of space like angry insects. In 30 seconds, the 50 attacking ships were reduced to expanding clouds of debris. Princess Lyra's shocked silence echoed across the communication channel. How is this possible? We've had practice, Marcus replied simply. Dr. Walsh, are you reading any communication from the main swarm force? Massive increase in electromagnetic chatter, she reported. I think we got their attention. The swarm's response was predictable and massive. Thousands of ships broke off from their harvesting operations and converged on the Defiance's position. They moved with the mindless efficiency of insects, expecting to overwhelm the single enemy vessel through sheer numbers. All Zephyrian ships, fall back to safe distance, Marcus commanded. Stay in formation behind us. We're going to show you how humans handle bullies. What followed was a masterclass in human military doctrine. The Defiance used its superior speed and maneuverability to avoid direct confrontation with the main swarm force, instead picking off isolated groups and stragglers. They employed tactics developed in Earth's naval warfare: hit-and-run attacks, false retreats to draw enemies into ambushes, and concentrated fire on command vessels to disrupt enemy coordination. Most importantly, they used the swarm's own aggression against them. When the enemy massed for a large assault, the Defiance would lead them into asteroid fields where their larger ships couldn't maneuver effectively. When the swarm tried to spread out, human forces would concentrate on the weakest points, eliminating entire squadrons before moving to the next target. "Incredible," Princess Lyra whispered as she watched the battle unfold. "They fight like a single organism, but also like many individuals. How do they coordinate such complex movements?" Dr. Walsh monitored the battle while explaining to the fascinated alien. "Military training, Princess. Every human on this ship has spent years learning to work as part of a team. We call it unit cohesion, individual strength combined with group coordination." The tide of battle turned when the Defiance located one of the swarm's feeding stations. The massive biomechanical structure was processing captured Zephyrians, converting their energy forms into some kind of sustenance for the hive mind. Thousands of Princess Lyra's people were trapped inside, being slowly consumed. "Captain, we can't destroy that station with conventional weapons," Torres reported. "Too many friendlies inside. We need a rescue operation." "Boarding party," Marcus decided. "Full Marine complement. Princess, we're going to need your help." "I do not understand. We cannot fight." "You don't need to fight. You need to guide us. Your people are inside that station and we need you to help us find them." The rescue operation was unlike anything in human military history. Marine squads fought through biomechanical corridors, designed for creatures that fed on suffering, while Princess Lyra's consciousness guided them through her ship's communication systems. The Zephyrians couldn't fight, but they could show the humans where their people were being held. Sergeant Rodriguez kicked down another organic barrier, his squad's weapons lighting up the dark passages. "This place is a nightmare, Captain. It's like fighting inside a living stomach. Stay focused, Sergeant." "Princess, are we close to the main holding area?" Princess Lyra's voice carried pain and determination. "Yes, Captain Chen. Through the next membrane, but be careful. The structure itself is alive and hostile." The Marines blasted through the final barrier and found themselves in a vast chamber where thousands of Zephyrian energy forms were trapped in harvesting webs. The biomechanical feeders were slowly draining their life force, converting it into nutrients for the swarm hive. "Mind. Explosives on the harvesting machinery," Marcus commanded. "Get our allies out of there." As the Marines worked to free the captured Zephyrians, the station began to respond. Biomechanical defenders emerged from the walls, creatures that were part machine and part something else entirely. They moved with predatory grace, designed to harvest and consume rather than fight. They had never encountered enemies that shot back. Human tactics, training, and weaponry proved devastatingly effective against creatures that had evolved to prey on pacifists. The Marines fought with coordinated precision, each soldier covering the others while advancing toward their objective. Their weapons, designed to stop human soldiers wearing advanced armor, tore through biomechanical defenders with brutal efficiency. "All civilians extracted," Sergeant Rodriguez reported, as the last Zephyrian energy forms fled the station. "Charges are set." The station's destruction sent shockwaves through the entire swarm fleet. For the first time in their existence, they had lost a major asset to enemy action. Their response was swift and desperate. Every available ship converged on the Defiance's position, abandoning their harvesting operations to eliminate this unprecedented threat. "Captain, we've got the entire swarm fleet incoming," Torres reported. "All 10,000 ships plus reinforcements from outside the system." Princess Lyra's voice carried a mixture of hope and terror. "Captain Chen, you have saved thousands of my people, but now the entire swarm focuses on you. How can one ship survive such odds?" Marcus looked at his crew, seeing determination reflected in every face. They were outnumbered 10,000 to 1, facing an enemy that had consumed entire civilizations. By any logical calculation, they should retreat immediately. Instead, Marcus smiled. Princess, you're about to learn something else about humans. We're really stubborn, and we don't abandon our friends. The final battle was about to begin, and humanity was going to show the galaxy why Earth's children never learned to surrender. Why Earth breeds warriors, the Void Swarm. Queen emerged from the depths of space like a nightmare given form. Her vessel was the size of a small moon, its biomechanical hull writhing with organic components that pulsed like a massive heart. 10,000 lesser ships surrounded her in perfect formation, their collective consciousness focused on a single objective: destroy the anomaly that dared to resist their harvest. Captain Marcus Chen stood on the bridge of the Defiance, watching death approach at faster than light speeds. Behind them, Princess Lyra's refugee fleet held position at what they hoped was a safe distance. The rescued Zephyrians had joined their surviving kin, their energy forms flickering with emotions they had no words for: gratitude, hope, and something that might have been the beginning of courage. "Captain, I'm reading massive energy spikes from the Queen ship," reported Chief Engineer Lisa Park. "Whatever she's powering up, it's beyond anything we've encountered." Dr. Sarah Walsh monitored the Zephyrian communications while analyzing the approaching fleet. "Princess Lyra is asking if we have a plan. She says her people have never seen anything like what we accomplished at the feeding station." Marcus nodded grimly. The rescue operation had saved thousands of Zephyrian lives, but it had also revealed the true scope of their enemy. The Swarm wasn't just a collection of hungry ships, it was a single organism spread across multiple vessels, with the Queen as its central consciousness. Every ship they had destroyed was like cutting off a finger. The Queen was the brain, and she was very angry. "Commander Torres, final tactical assessment," Marcus ordered. Jake Torres had been running calculations for the past hour, and his conclusions were sobering. "Captain, we're facing impossible odds. The Queen ship alone outmasses us by a factor of 50. Her escort fleet could overwhelm us through sheer numbers even if we destroyed 100 ships for every one we lose. Any recommendations?" "Retreat," Torres said simply. "Fall back to Earth, warn the Defense Coalition, and let them prepare for the inevitable invasion. We've done what we came to do. We saved who we could." Princess Lyra's voice echoed across the bridge communication system. "Captain Chen, my people are grateful beyond measure for what you have accomplished. But Commander Torres speaks wisdom. You should flee while you can. Do not sacrifice your lives for a battle that cannot be won." Marcus looked around the bridge, at his crew. Every face reflected the same determination he felt burning in his chest. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and facing an enemy that had never known defeat. By every military doctrine in human history, retreat was the logical choice, but logic had never stopped humans before. "Dr. Walsh," Marcus said quietly, "tell Princess Lyra about Earth." Sarah activated the communication array, her voice carrying across space to the alien princess who had become their unlikely ally. "Princess, before we continue, I want you to understand something about our species, about our world." On the refugee ships, thousands of energy beings focused their attention on the strange human who spoke with such conviction. Princess Lyra had seen these creatures fight with impossible skill, but she still didn't understand what drove them to risk everything for strangers. "Earth is what we call a death world," Dr. Walsh continued. "For 4 billion years, our planet has been trying to kill everything that lives on it. Ice ages that lasted millions of years, volcanic eruptions that blocked out the sun, asteroid impacts that destroyed 90% of all life, predators with claws and teeth designed to tear apart anything they could catch." Princess Lyra's form flickered with confusion. "How did your species survive such conditions?" "We learned to fight back," Sarah replied. "Every generation faced extinction, and every generation found a way to survive. We developed tools to hunt predators larger than ourselves. We built shelters that could withstand planetary disasters. We created weapons that could kill creatures that evolution had designed to be unkillable. But why continue fighting? Why not seek peace?" Captain Marcus took over the conversation. Princess, we learned something that your people never had to discover. Sometimes peace is only possible when someone is willing to fight for it. The Void Swarm will never stop consuming. Never negotiate. Never choose mercy over hunger. The only way to have peace is to make sure they can't hurt anyone else. The Queen's massive vessel had reached weapons range, and energy readings spiked across the Defiance's sensor grid. The biomechanical nightmare began powering up weapons that could crack moons, while her escort fleet spread out to ensure no escape was possible. All human vessels, this is Queen of the Void. A voice echoed across communication channels, speaking in mechanical tones that carried the hunger of eons. You have interfered with our harvest. You have destroyed our feeding stations. You will be consumed slowly for your defiance. Marcus activated the ship's communication array, broadcasting on all frequencies so that every Zephyrian refugee could hear his response. This is Captain Marcus Chen of the Earth vessel Defiance. We don't negotiate with monsters. Come and take us. What followed was the most one-sided battle in galactic history. The Void Swarm attacked with overwhelming force, expecting their massive numbers and superior firepower to crush the single human ship within minutes. The Queen's main weapon fired first, a biomechanical beam that could have destroyed a city. The Defiance rolled away from the attack with impossible agility. Its pilot using evasive maneuvers developed in Earth's atmosphere, where split-second timing meant the difference between life and death. Return fire, all weapons, Marcus commanded. The Defiance's response was devastating. Human weapons technology refined through 40,000 years of warfare unleashed destruction that the swarm had never experienced. Plasma cannons that could penetrate planetary shields tore through biomechanical hulls. Nuclear-tipped missiles designed to destroy hardened military targets left expanding fireballs where enemy ships used to be. But the real surprise came when the escort fleet closed for what they expected to be a simple, overwhelming assault. Commander Torres had been studying swarm tactics throughout their journey, and he had identified their greatest weakness. They had never learned to fight an enemy that understood strategy. Execute Pattern Omega, Torres commanded. The Defiance had been designed by humans who understood that superior numbers didn't guarantee victory if your enemy was smarter than you. The ship's combat systems activated protocols developed from centuries of asymmetric warfare, turning the swarm's greatest strength against them. Instead of trying to fight 10,000 ships simultaneously, the Defiance used the enemy's numbers to create chaos in their ranks. Precision strikes on key vessels caused debris fields that interfered with swarm formations. Electronic warfare systems, developed to confuse human military AI, overloaded the biomechanical hive mind connections that coordinated enemy movements. Most importantly, the Defiance fought like humans had always fought, with innovation, adaptation, and absolute refusal to accept defeat. They're adapting faster than we predicted, Torres reported as the battle raged. The Queen is learning our tactics and adjusting her strategy. Then we change our strategy, Marcus replied. Chief Park, how's our power core holding up? Running. Hot but stable, Lisa reported. We can maintain full combat operations for another 6 hours. We won't need 6 hours, Marcus said grimly. He activated the ship's internal communication system. All hands, this is the captain. We're initiating the Prometheus Protocol. Silence fell across the bridge as every crew member understood what that meant. The Prometheus Protocol was humanity's final contingency, a last resort that would ensure victory at an unacceptable cost. Dr. Walsh turned to stare at Marcus. Captain, that will destroy the ship. We'll all die. The Swarm Queen will die too, Marcus replied. And without her, the hive mind collapses. The threat ends here. Princess Lyra's voice echoed across the communication channels, carrying desperate urgency. Captain Chen, I do not understand. Why would you sacrifice yourselves when you could escape? Marcus looked at the tactical display showing the swarm fleet converging on their position. In a few minutes, even human ingenuity wouldn't be enough to keep them alive. But the Prometheus Protocol would turn the Defiance into a weapon that could destroy the Queen's massive vessel, ending the swarm's reign of terror forever. Princess, he said quietly. This is what humans do. When monsters threaten innocent people, someone has to stand up to them, even if it costs everything. But your people will never know what you accomplished here. Earth will never learn of your sacrifice. They don't need to know, Sarah Walsh said, joining the conversation. Princess, humanity spent millions of years learning that sometimes the right thing to do is also the hardest thing to do. We don't do it for glory or recognition. We do it because it's right. The Prometheus Protocol began its activation sequence. Deep within the Defiance's core, humanity's most dangerous technology prepared to turn the ship into a directed nuclear explosion that would punch through the Queen's biomechanical armor and destroy her from within. It was a suicide run, but it would end the swarm's threat forever. But Princess Lyra had been listening, learning, understanding what these strange creatures from a distant world represented. As the human ship prepared for its final sacrifice, something unprecedented happened in Zephyrian history. Captain Chen, Princess Lyra's voice carried new harmonies, notes that her species had never produced before. We cannot let you die alone. Princess, your people can't fight. You said so yourself. You are correct. We cannot fight as you fight, but we can do something else. We can give. Across the refugee fleet, something miraculous began to happen. 200 Zephyrian ships moved into formation around the Defiance, their energy beings focusing their life force into a single purpose. They couldn't wield weapons or understand tactics, but they could share their power with those who could. What are they doing? Torres asked in amazement as energy readings spiked across their instruments. Dr. Walsh monitored the phenomenon with growing excitement. They're channeling their life energy directly into our systems. Captain, our power core is stabilizing. Weapons are charging beyond maximum capacity. They're making us stronger. Princess Lyra's explanation carried the weight of a species discovering courage for the first time. Captain Chen, you taught us that sometimes warriors are necessary to protect the innocent. We cannot be warriors, but we can empower those who fight for justice. The combined human Zephyrian force struck the Swarm Queen like a hammer blow from the gods themselves. The Defiance, supercharged with alien energy, unleashed destruction on a scale that rewrote the laws of physics. Every shot was a small star, being born and dying in microseconds. Every missile carried the concentrated hope of an entire civilization. The Queen's biomechanical defenses, designed to withstand conventional weapons, crumbled under the assault. Her escort fleet tried to protect their central consciousness, but human tactics combined with Zephyrian power created a force that transcended anything the galaxy had ever seen. Hull breach on the Queen ship, Torres reported with barely contained excitement. We're punching through her armor. She's trying to retreat, Park added. Her faster-than-light systems are charging. Not happening, Marcus said grimly. All weapons target her FTL core. End this. The final salvo tore through the Queen's massive hull and detonated her faster-than-light drive. The explosion was visible from 12 worlds, a new star born from the death of something that had consumed countless civilizations. As the Queen died, her hive mind connection collapsed, leaving 10,000 swarm vessels adrift in space like puppets with cut strings. The remaining biomechanical ships, without their central consciousness to guide them, began shutting down. Some simply stopped moving. Others turned on each other in confusion. The threat that had terrorized the galaxy for eons was finally ended. Princess Lyra's voice carried joy that her species had never known how to express. Captain Chen, we have won. The swarm is defeated. But the victory had come at a cost. The energy transfer from the Zephyrian fleet had saved the Defiance from destruction, but many of the alien ships had burned out their life support systems in the process. Hundreds of energy beings had given everything they had to ensure that evil would not triumph.